Alright, this is the arcade cabinet tour that I've decided to do here. Finally, took a couple months to make, me and a friend, and it's called Time Waster. There's a nice shot of the marquee. And I guess what I'll do here is go ahead and turn it on, and while that's booting up we can take a look at the inside. Here's the power button up on top. It's just a regular arcade button, and we'll switch that on. Marquee lights up, computer starts booting up, amp for the speakers come on, and all that. It takes, 20-30 seconds or so for everything to come on. And so now what I'll do is climb up inside here and kind of show you what's going on the inside. Here's the PC. It's black on the inside of here, so it's kind of difficult to see, but there's not much to see anyway. It's really clean on the inside. Here is the little amp for the speakers, just car speakers. Up here, this is the smart strip that a lot of people are using. And this is what turns everything on at once. So the computer, the PC is the master, and when it switches on, everything else on this power strip turns on. So in this case, that's the marquee light and the speaker amp. And what else do I have in here? The monitor. It's got a real goofy angle right now, but maybe you can see what we've got going on. For the wires here, they're nice and bundled up, and there's not a lot of junk going on in here. Right above my head right now is the drawer for the keyboard and mouse. I'll pop that out a little, and we can see the underside of the control panel. I have an iPac 2 running everything, and if you're not sure what that is, that's just translating all these switches here, the micro switches on the control panel, into keyboard strokes, and that goes out from a USB into the PC, and you could program those however you like for whatever emulator you're running. And there's the back of my LCD monitor. I did go LCD on this, despite everyone telling me not to. For a couple reasons. One, the cabinet plans that we got were set to have an LCD screen in there, and I needed a small footprint. I'm in a small apartment right now, and to put a CRT monitor in there, this thing would have been, practically twice as deep. So stuck with the LCD screens, which are, actually easier to find. Here's the keyboard drawer. It's rare that I have to use it because I took care to get everything mapped the exact way I want it, and you can do plenty of shortcuts and things like that on the control panel. So we'll close that up. Here's Hyperspin running right now on the PC. Got a bunch of emulators in here: MAME, NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, TurboGrafx-16, the Daphne games, Neo Geo, Atari 2600. Got a handful of Windows games in here, and some visual pinball games as well. And I'm not going to, go in here and start playing games or anything like that. There's a million videos of people playing their MAME games on YouTube. So, but got all the themes and art and everything going for most of the games. Certainly the wheel art, and then in this case we have the sort of default art for a non-themed game going there for Commotion. Just taking a look at the control panel. It's a two-player control panel. Light's kind of annoying. 6 buttons each. A one-player and a two-player button, and then underneath, as it curves down, don't know if we'll get this with the light, but I have a volume control right here. Volume for everything is controlled with a program that I can't remember right now. And then over here we have the pause and exit buttons, which are mapped to be pretty much universal throughout all the different emulators. Certainly the ones that support pause, that would be the pause button right there. And the exit button, universal for everything. If you want to pop out of a game, that's what you use. Also on the side, hard to see here on the black cabinet, but on either side we have the pinball flipper buttons on either side, which are also mapped to some doing some cool things elsewhere, not just in pinball. Like, for example, here in MAME, the left and right flipper buttons are used to insert coins. Might eventually put a coin door in the front, but for right now, the left and right flipper buttons insert coins for MAME. In the Nintendo emulator, the left and right buttons, since we're not having to put any coins in there, those are used for save state and load state, respectively. And that's super handy and fun if you want to cheat and do save states before you jump over a hole or whatever. Probably similar things going on in the other emulators. That's about it for the control panel. There's no trackball, as you can see, and no dial thing, which is okay by me. The games that would support a trackball can be set up to use a regular joystick. It's not the same, you don't get the same thing, but you know, just for casual playing around, that's just fine by me. And as far as the spinner or the wheel, for games that use that, you can set up Player 2 to control that. So you can have the Player 2 joystick operating things that the spinning wheel thing that I can't remember would do. Here's the marquee. This is a pretty much custom marquee for the most part. These characters are from the game Zookeeper, which was a Taito game from 1982, I think. And this is kind of what inspired the art in the cabinet. And the cool thing about Hyperspin, the front end that's being used here, is that... Oh, is somebody here right now? Alright, sorry, I thought somebody was at the door. But continuing here, the cool thing about Hyperspin is that all of these themes that you see coming up on the screen are you can edit all of them and design your own themes for your favorite games. And specifically with the default theme, like we see here in MAME, and I haven't gotten around to this, but this can be matched to the design and the colors of the rest of the cabinet. So that's something really cool. And Hyperspin is amazing. If you don't know much about it, you can check it out at hyperspin-fe.com. And it's really what inspired me to build this cabinet. Just seeing how slick this front end was. So, what else could we talk about here? Some of the special things going on that you're not going to see anywhere else. Going to the pinball games here, this is kind of a customized theme using elements from some other people's themes here. But I have a handful of 20 or 30 so different pinball games. So you see I started the game there and the please wait screen came up. Now the pinball games take just a second to launch. If you're familiar with Hyperspin and launching these games and been watching videos or playing around with it yourself, normally you hit the start button, whatever you've assigned that to, and it launches right into the game. In this case for the pinball, it does take just a little while to load those tables and get them going, and that's what we have here. So we will put a coin in for the pinball for fishtails, and then go ahead and start the game. And then for fun, what I've done here is the player 2 control panel, or the joystick. If I pull that back, that pulls back the... yikes! Alright, just lost the ball there. Anyways, that pulls back the plunger doodad on the pinball game. So that's kind of fun. You're playing pinball and thwap. It kind of feels like regular pinball. And then on the sides of the cabinet, we have your flippers, and that works just great. And the visual pinball was a pain in the ass to set up in Hyperspin, but once it's working, it's just so much fun. And then so now down here, the exit button, we exit out of the pinball game, and here we are back at the menu. Looking at some other things here, just in MAME, titled Arcade Classics here. We'll just go into the favorites menu, and you can view your favorite games. So if you've got thousands of games in here, it's nice to be able to pop into the favorites menu and just go through, the handful of games that you play most often. Let's take a look at what's going on with MAME. So we'll start the game. This is a custom build of MAME that eliminates the nag screens at the beginning. So if you're used to starting a MAME game, you usually have to confirm that it's legal for you to play the game by pressing OK on the keyboard or hitting left and right on the joystick. And then you'll get warnings about the about how well the game's emulated or whatever. And so this build of MAME skips all that, goes right into the game. And also the build saves high scores. So that's handy if you're into tracking your high scores. What I've got going on right here in Burger Time is displaying the bezel art here for this game. So vertically oriented games like Burger Time and Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, you have the option to display the sides of the bezel art here for each game. Now for horizontally oriented games, it takes up the full screen, and we can look at one of those. Just exit out of here, back at the main menu, and then let's see what we got. Of course, all the ones that I'm pulling up here are Crystal Castle, so enter the game. Boots right up. I have the volume down a little bit right now since I'm talking, but it's nice to be able to control the volume on the fly here right on the outside of the cabinet instead of opening up the door, turning up the volume, or going into some sort of shortcut on the keyboard and controlling the volume like that. So here we are, horizontally positioned game, taking up the full screen. I think this is a 20-inch LCD we got here. So not much to show you here. So we'll exit out of that. We're back at the menu. And we'll exit out again. And this is all running on Windows 7. Let me just turn that down. This is a Windows 7 machine running all this. 2 gigs of RAM, a pretty decent video card, let's see, what else do we have here? I don't know. Maybe I'll put the specs of the PC in the description of the video. Dual processor. And all this takes up about a little over 100 gigs, maybe about 120 gigs on a hard drive. Most of that is the video preview for every single one of these games. So, you go in here and you go into Neo Geo and you have several hundred games here. Each one, as you land on it, comes up with a video showing the gameplay. So you can kind of see, explore what all these games are and just get an idea of what it is. Which is a really fun way to browse through games and learn about ones that you may have slept on or whatever. So, like I was saying, this is a Windows PC running Windows 7, and we were underneath the cabinet when we were looking at this before when it was booting up, but all the Windows welcome screens and things like that are hidden, and it just launches right into Hyperspin, and you're on your way. And also, for exiting, all the goodbye screens and things like that Windows has are hidden too, and we'll do that now. So we'll exit out of Hyperspin just through the program here, and we'll choose yes. And when we do that, we get this nice screen of a Space Invader, and the computer shuts down, the marquee turns off, and we're done. And that's it, and that's my MAME cabinet time waster. I guess thanks for watching.